Hi friends, so today I have a video that I've been wanting to do for I think over a year now. I'm surprised I haven't done it before. Maybe I've done something similar to it in the past. I don't remember. But this is going to be albums that have changed my life or like had a big impact on my life. I think I wanted to make an album not an album. I wanted to make a video last summer about my favorite albums of all time. But I think that this one would be more interesting because some of these albums are not my favorite albums of all time, but they're ones that just I have a stack of CDs next to me and like 2 vinyl records. They're albums that have just stuck with me and I will never get rid of them because of times in my life where they marked a huge, I don't know, turning point or something, or just are very nostalgic for me. So I'm going to go through these as quick as I can because I kind of have a large stack. I tried to narrow it down. I probably have like 10 to 15 albums. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. It's one I've been meaning to do for a while, so I don't know. And let me know your albums that have changed your life or your favorites. So the first one I'm going to be talking about is by my favorite band, The Maine. I want to get out of the way. And it is their album, American Candy. This album, as you guys probably know, is pretty recent. This came out in 2015, and the reason I put this album in this stack, because it's not even my favorite The Maine album, is because when this album came out, this sounds so dramatic, but I think my life just, and it's not because of the album, but I remember things just started falling into place around the time this came out. So when I listen to this album, a lot of the songs bring me back to times where I started realizing, okay, this is what I want to do for my career. This is who I should be friends with, who I shouldn't be friends with. Just like I grew up a little bit, I cut my bangs and I've had them since. It's been 4 years. And I don't know, it was just kind of a turning point for me. I know that sounds dramatic, but I've said it before, this is probably my favorite album of all time because of just the memories associated with it. And there were just a lot of songs on this album that really resonated with me at that time. Honestly, all of them. I remember that was the thing. All of the songs on this album I related to in that 6-month span, except maybe one, English Girls. But truly, this album, I'm sure you guys have listened to The Maine by now because I talk about them every 5 minutes on my channel, but maybe give this one a good listen. I do think it is one of their best albums lyrically, if not their best. Like I said, it's not my favorite The Maine album. My favorite is Forever Halloween. I talk about that all the time. But this one had a much bigger impact on my life, lyrically, musically, just because of nostalgia. So yeah, not to say all these albums really changed my life, but like I said, I think I was going through, I don't know, a maturing stage or something when this came out. So it means a lot to me. I think I have so many copies of this album because I had to buy them for events and stuff. And this was the first one I bought the week it came out at Best Buy. So I don't know, it's special to me. I'll never forget this album my whole life, ever, ever. Even if I don't like The Maine in 30 years, this one's gonna stick with me. Next up, I'm getting my favorites out of the way, because I always talk about The Maine and Taylor Swift on my channel, is an album by Taylor Swift. Again, not my favorite album of hers, but definitely the album that's had the biggest impact on my life, and that is her album, Fearless. Again, this is the original copy, there's cracks in the back, that I bought in, 2008 this came out? Yeah, 2008. This album means a lot to me because this is the album that really got me into Taylor Swift. As you guys know, she is my favorite artist. I could go on forever about how much I love Taylor Swift, how much her music has impacted my life. But when I bought this album, me and my mom bought it at Target together because my mom liked some of the songs on it and I liked some of the songs on it. When I got this, I never thought that, 10 years later, she would be still my favorite singer. So a lot of these songs are just really special to me. I remember going to school every day. I must have been in 5th grade, a young age, going to school every day in the car with my mom and listening to Radio Disney. And they would always play White Horse or You Belong With Me. And White Horse was my favorite, which looking back, I was emo. White Horse is sad. Why was 9-year-old me getting emo on the way to school? Whatever. But this album is still one of my favorite Taylor albums. Like I said, it's not my favorite. My favorite is Speak Now. I think it will always be Speak Now. But this album really does, I think without this album, I would probably not have been as into Taylor Swift as I am. And I don't know, a lot of these songs I just remember like listening to going through high school, like 15. I remember listening to on my bus ride to my first day of high school, freshman year. And Love Story, to this day, I still want to be my wedding song. I know that's so cliche, but like I said, she's been in my life so long that Love Story has just always been like my favorite love song. So whenever I get married, whenever that may be, catch me dancing around a love story. Like I said, White Horse, because that was the song I was most obsessed with. You Belong With Me. I, like every other teenage girl, had a crush on a boy who was dating a girl that I couldn't stand. So naturally, I'm dancing around my room to You Belong With Me. I don't need to go track by track, but a lot of these songs resonate and just like hold good memories in my mind. Like just like my, not even that, because I'm still young, but like kind of my middle school, high school life. I don't know. So this album does mean a lot to me. Like I said, this is my original copy. I'm never going to get rid of it. And yeah, so Fearless by Taylor Swift. The next album I'm going to be talking about may be funny to some of you guys, but it's going to lead into another album. I may have talked about this album on my channel before, but you know what? You can cringe all you want. It's literally my favorite movie soundtrack of all time, and that is the Twilight movie soundtrack. I do have this CD somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's not in my stack anymore. I think my mom might have taken it, honestly, for her car. But yeah, so the Twilight movie soundtrack. I don't know if I've ever, I know I've definitely, you know, in a record collection update talked about this album, but this album, like, okay, so when Twilight came out, I was so into it. I mean, I'm still into it. I'm rereading the series right now. I don't know why I'm so into it. I know it's like the cringiest, like, fiction love story ever. But I don't know. I don't know if it's, I think it's a nostalgia thing for me. I think when it all came out and I got really into the record and I had all the CDs for all the movies and stuff, it just was a time in my life where, like, I don't know, it just, I loved it so much and it was such a mood to me. And even now, like, when I read the book or watch the movie, I get in this certain zone. It's just, y'all are probably cringing so hard. You're probably like, Soph, what the hell? Like, you're so weird. But this album, honestly, kind of changed a lot for me. I've gotten into a lot of artists because of this album. I'm about to talk about a Paramore album. I got into Paramore because of this album. I had never heard of them beforehand, and when I was listening to this album and I was into Twilight, Paramore has 2 songs on this record, and right away was hooked. And Paramore were my favorite band for like a long time after that. Muse is on this album, Linkin Park, Mute Math, Iron and Wine. There's just a lot of really good artists and songs on this record. Like I said, I still go back to it a lot and listen to these songs. I just got this album on vinyl within the last year. I don't know how I did this, but I got it for like $20 on Discogs. There's some scratches on it, but I more so wanted it to have as like a collector's piece. Because I remember on Amazon, like this is out of press now, it was like $200. I don't know why this guy was selling it for $20. Get the inside, look at it's Edward and Bella and all of the vampires. I don't care how cringy it is. I freaking love this movie and this. It's different. It hits different. And if you can relate, you can relate. But like I said, this album has been, what year did this come out? 2008, the same year as Fearless by Taylor Swift. This album for the last 10 years has just been, I always still listen to it. And it just brings me back to a certain place that I can't describe. And that leads us into a Paramore album called Brand New Eyes. This is my favorite Paramore album. It always has been. I think it always will be. I don't think they'll ever top this for me. Any of you guys who are Paramore fans, I think so many of their fans love this record. But yeah, this album, I don't know. It doesn't even hold a special place with me because of certain song meanings and nostalgia, but just because I remember when I bought this CD, first of all, it was a bribe. There was this thing I really didn't want to go to at school, and my mom was like forcing me, and I was like, well, if I go, can you buy me a CD? And she was like, fine. And I picked this one out. So I always think of that. I think at the age I was buying this CD, I must have been in like 7th or 8th grade. It was a different kind of music for me. This to me was like a masterpiece at that age. I mean, not that it's not anymore, but I think I just was used to listening to whatever. And like I got into the Twilight album, which then led me to buy this CD. And I was like, whoa, there's actually really good music like this out there. And then that sprawled into my Paramore craze, which I'm still in. I still love Paramore. But yeah, so some of my favorite songs off of this album that hold the most, I guess, memories with me: Ignorance, Brick by Boring Brick, and Misguided Ghosts, I would say. I don't know why those three were like my favorite back in the day. But what year did this come out? This came out in 2009. Wow. So me in 2008 and 2009 was really living for whatever music was coming out. Next album, it's an EP that I'm going to be talking about. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it is just an EP and the reasoning is a little sappy. It is Real Friends, Put Yourself Back Together. I used to talk about Real Friends on my channel all the time. Quite frankly, I'm not as into them anymore as I used to be. I don't know if I just don't really care for their music that they've been putting out or if I've just grown out of their sound. I don't know. I still love pop punk. I still love knuckle puck and a lot of bands like them, but I haven't been as into them as I used to be. However, this EP is very special to me. Not to get all emo, but I got into this EP at a time when I was really like going through it. It was like my sophomore, junior year of high school. I was just in a really dark place. I started seeing therapy. I just had never felt like that before. And thankfully I feel a lot better. I can cope a lot better in the last few years. But I remember this EP really, for some reason, was relatable for me. Whether it be the way I was feeling or relationships I had with other people at the time, this EP really just kind of, I think, made it a little easier. I mean, so did a lot of other pieces of music. I'm sure I was listening to so many other things, but this one for sure, I always I always remember being something that was like just therapeutic to me. And like I said, I'm not as into Real Friends as I used to be, but I'll always love this EP. I'll always go back to it every now and then. Not because I want to go back to that dark place, but just it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys ever do that when you listen to an old song that maybe helped you through a certain situation or you really related to at a time for whatever reason. And then going back years later and listening to it, it's a weird feeling. So I've actually listened to this recently and it was really weird to listen to because some of these songs they hit different at the time. Next is an album that, again, is more of a transitional thing for me. It is Bring Me Your Love by City and Colour. I think I've talked about this album before on my channel because I do have it on vinyl, so I've probably talked about the vinyl before. But this album, I think, marked a time also when I started getting into just more music. I was only really listening to pop radio. My cousin actually brought City and Colour up to me once, and I went and listened to this album, and to this day, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. I don't know how old I was when I got into this. This came out in 2007. I probably got into it in like 2010, maybe a little earlier. But yeah, this album for sure, for some reason, just marks the time where I started just digging deeper into music and started listening to other things, whether it be alternative music, indie music, folk music, just things that were different than mainstream music. And to this day, I love this record. Some of my favorites on here are Sleeping Sickness, Waiting, The Girl, and probably Body in a Box. The next album I have, I don't really know why I put this on this list, but I know that it was a big album for me, and it is The Best Damn Thing by Avril Lavigne. I have always been a huge Avril Lavigne fan. I'm kind of disappointed with her most recent album. I definitely haven't talked about it on my channel, but I love all of her releases except her most recent one. From her first album to even the self-titled with Hello Kitty and all those cringy songs that people don't like. I liked that record. But this one for some reason just holds a special spot with me. I don't know if it's, like I said, a time in my life where I was just getting into more things. I don't know, but like, what year did this come out? This came out in 2007. So maybe it was like between 2007 and 2010 that I was like getting into more music or really listening to music more, because I don't know, like this one for some reason I couldn't not put it in the pile, and I don't really have a reason. I just remember this was one of my favorite albums like at the time ever. This album does have some bops, like I know we all know Girlfriend, but I Can Do Better, The Best Damn Thing, Hot, Contagious, Innocence. Oh, this record was so good. I have to go listen to it later. This next CD I should have talked about first, because it was the first CD I had ever been given, like that wasn't like Hannah Montana or something like kind of kiddish, whatever. And it is Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson. This again is the original CD. I'm never getting rid of it. My aunt gave this to me for Christmas in probably the year this came out. Maybe not 2004, maybe like 2006. She probably gave it to me. But this was the first CD I ever had. And to this day, I still think it's her best album. And I don't know, like I said, I think the reason I just put it in this pile is because it is the first CD I was ever given. I had a CD player in my room at the time, so it was the only thing I could listen to, really, besides like my High School Musical soundtracks. And I don't know, I look at this as like the first real piece of music I had that was mine and that was like different than what I was used to. So this album definitely holds a special spot with me. I'm sure it's all scratched up. Maybe not. Yeah, it has some scratches on it. But like I said, I've had this album for so long. I'm never getting rid of it. I don't remember the last time I put this in a CD player. But obviously we all know Since You've Been Gone. But I remember Walk Away was like my favorite. Oh my God. So this next EP is one that started my emo phase and my scene phase. And that is Sleeping with Sirens. If you were a movie, this would be your soundtrack. So the first Sleeping with Sirens song I ever heard was Scene 2, Roger Rabbit. And it turned me on to this EP. And from here on out, oh my God, I had all of Sleeping with Sirens albums, Pierce the Veil, Black Veil Bride. It started the emo in me. So I had to put this one on the list. And it's weird to me because this is like an acoustic EP. So like I was really into this. And then when I started listening to their actual music, I was like, whoa, this is so different. But I loved it. And honestly, I would go back to this. I haven't listened to this in so long either. I think I ordered this on Amazon when I really liked it. I was like, I think I had an Amazon gift card and I loved the EP so much. I was like, I need to have the CD. Like I need to have it physically. So like if I can't listen to it online, I can listen to it. I also had the CD with If You Can't Hang on it. I forget what that was called. Maybe it was called If You Can't Hang, which I got right after this. But this one really marked the time for me when I had my little emo phase. I'm like still in my emo phase, but I mean like thick black winged eyeliner, putting my hair to the side, like Kellen Quinn being the only man I can ever end up with, like that emo phase. Next album I'm going to be talking about is another one that really just marks a time in my life that I'll never forget. I think it was when I was graduating 8th grade. These all make it sound like 8th grade was like the most exciting time of my life. It wasn't. I just think that was a time when I started really like discovering music and like new music. And this is the Pretty Reckless Light Me Up album. To this day, this is one of my favorite rock albums ever. Like I said, I've never made a favorite albums of all time video, but this one definitely is one of my favorite rock albums. They're a band that I've always been a fan of. I haven't listened to their most recent album, but the Follow Me Down album, I think it was called, was it called Follow Me Down? Or Going to Hell? Maybe it was called Going to Hell. I've always thought Taylor Momsen was like so badass and so cool. I like wanted to be her when this was out. But yeah, this CD, I think I was in like 8th grade. Oh my God, she's such a goth queen. Like I want to be her. But this album is just so rock and roll, and like they're like the Pretty Reckless are just so rock and roll. I've never seen them live before. I really want to. They actually came to my like nearby, like 15 minutes from my house a few years ago, and I couldn't go, but I would love to see them. My favorites were definitely My Medicine, Just Tonight, Miss Nothing, Going Down. And this album was so good. This album is so good. I need to go back and listen to all of these. I just picked them out of the pile because I knew that they like were a big thing for me. The next album is another one that kind of sparked my emo phase. That's why I'm putting it in. There is no huge meaning behind it, but it is You Me at 6, Sinners Never Sleep. This one, like I said, it wasn't as big of an impact as that Sleeping with Sirens one, but I remember, I don't know where I heard it, but I heard Loverboy somewhere and immediately got into this record. And like I said, I ordered this one on Amazon too because I wanted to have the whole album. So I held on to it, and I still love this record. This record is packed with great songs. But again, it just kind of holds a spot for me of a time when I was getting into emo music. I was going to talk about this one, so I'm just going to throw it in. Nothing Personal, All Time Low, same thing. Like, these two albums, did they come out around the same time? Nah, this one came out like 2 years later. But they both kind of had the same effect, I think. They both were like getting me into more emo music and starting that little phase of my life. So these two for sure. I have two more albums I'm going to talk about. This one, again, I don't know why I'm totally putting it in here. I just think it came out at a time when I was kind of against listening to anything pop related. Like, I was that person. I'm not anymore, but I was that person who was so into like alternative that I was like too good for anything pop, but I would like drop everything for Taylor Swift. I was like annoying. And that is Lorde's Pure Heroine. What year did this come out? This came out in 2013. This came out, I just remember being really into this and the 1975 self-titled album. They were like the two like hipster albums of the time, like Tumblr albums if you remember. But this one I remember I was way more into, so that's why I'm bringing it up. I'm still obsessed with Lorde. I still think Lorde is one of the coolest female artists out there right now. I know she only has 2 records, this and Melodrama, but like when she comes back, I have faith she's gonna come back good. But yeah, like I said, this album was just at a time where I felt like so like hipster and so like different, and I was so annoying. Like, thank God I'm not like that anymore, because I know there's people that are out there like that. So yeah, Lorde Pure Heroine. I don't know why I remember this time in my life so much. I don't know. I remember I like bought my first shirt at Urban Outfitters. I was so... Maybe this shouldn't be a favorite album. Maybe this should just remind me of who I shouldn't be. And the last album I'm going to be talking about is one that I really debated putting in here, but at the end of the day, I want to put in the albums that did have a big impact on my life. And if this upsets you, I'm sorry, because I know this band was kind of canceled, or they were canceled. But this album is by Brand New, The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me. I have talked about Brand New on my channel so much before that whole thing happened, because I didn't want to promote that. I didn't want people to think I supported that, and I don't at all. I've had all of Brand New's albums on vinyl before that ever happened, so I'm not going to get rid of them or sell them, because they're pieces of music that mark, important times in my life, and I just don't believe in that. I already purchased it. I purchased it before we knew all of that stuff, and I'm going to keep it because they're important to me. So if you don't like that I'm talking about them, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was really not going to put it in, but I felt like I needed to put this in just because this album, for me, really... it didn't mean a lot to me in the sense that like it helped me through something, but it opened my eyes to a lot more creativity in music. I think any of you guys who have listened to Brand New, it is very obvious that Jesse Lacey is dark and unique and just different the way he writes, the meanings behind his words, the meanings behind his songs, the stories they tell. And not that Brand New are the only artists I listen to that do that, but I do remember this album in particular had a lot of songs that were just made me curious kind of to what the drive was behind them. It made me start thinking more about music, I guess, is what this album did for me. Of what, more than just love songs, more than just being sad and going through something or a breakup. Like, I think this album really opened my eyes to just what could be behind a song, if that makes sense. This sounds super dramatic. But I'm not going to go super into it. And I think it's important to note that what Jesse Lacey did doesn't account for the rest of the band. They were part of this too, and part of Brand New too. So aside from that dark note, like I said, this album just really, I'm sure we've all heard this album before and listened to it. I don't want to go super into it, but some of the dark, gruesome meanings behind some of these songs are just really interesting to me. I think it's this album really had me thinking about music and thinking about why people write what they do and what they're writing about. And yeah, so The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me. So those were the albums that meant the most to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a ton others that I wanted to talk about, like a Nirvana album, like some more Taylor Swift albums. I just don't feel like I need to go through all of them. These are the ones that I just think marked really significant times in my life, times that, I don't know, just really had me growing as a music fan and finding out new things and learning new things about music and different genres. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have been into any of these records before, or if you are now, and maybe tell me some of the albums that have changed your life and that have had a big impact on your life. I would love to hear it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye.